Eric Sophia made a series of videos about how wonderful the Witcher books are, and I just had to read them. And I've only finished the first one, but they were right.
I have something to say.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlie. So I'm here to talk about The Last Wish by Andrei Sapkov. So I've only read the first book, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by how much I absolutely fell head over heels in love with this book, this story, this world, everything. My only exposure to The Witcher was I tried playing the first game and I did not like it, which I now know is apparently how that was supposed to go. Then I watched the Netflix series because Henry Cavill with his shirt off. I saw the ads and was like, I'm gonna watch this, and fell in love with it, thought it was wonderful. And then Curio did a series of videos. If you have not seen them, definitely go over to Curio's channel and watch them about the wonderful Witcher series. And I just sat back and went, can they really be all that? Like, that just seems impossible for a fantasy series. And decided that I had to read them for myself. I am pleased to report that the stories of these books' greatness is not exaggerated. I can't really put my finger on what it is about The Last Wish that made me love it more than any of the other fantasy books that I've read lately. One is, I want to say it's its sense of whimsy, but it doesn't really have a sense of whimsy. It's not as grumpy as the TV show, and in fact, Geralt in the book is a very different character than Geralt on the show. And his relationship with Dandelion is Jasker, if you watch the show, is ever so sweet and cute, and I love it. The story of how he meets Yennefer is amazing and fairly similar to the one that's in the show, but a little bit different. And that's a lot of what I came away with this from. Season 1 of The Witcher was based on the first 2 books of the Witcher series, which are collections of short stories that Andrei wrote for his son because his son loves fantasy books and asked his father if he could write him some fantasy. How awesome is that? Like, when you think about some of the greatest books that you've read, this tends to come up a lot, is they were either passion projects that somebody really felt in their heart, or that they wrote it for somebody that they really cared about, and that is amazing. I think the most amazing thing, though, about these books is how the characters really have a sense of agency about them, especially the female characters, which is diabolically rare in fantasy fiction. Fantasy characters, female fantasy characters especially, are generally only there to be gawked at, not to really be their own people, to have so much life in them, and to really... like Renfrey. Renfrey was great in the TV series, but book Renfrey is powerful and gorgeous, and I love her. The same with Yennefer. My feelings may change on these characters as I go forward. Like I said, season 1 was based off of the first 2 books, which are both collections of short stories. But so far, I'm hooked, I'm enamored, I am head over heels in love. I've already bought the next book, and we'll probably start going through it tonight. Maybe. We'll see if time permits. I love this book. And it also confirmed me in the thing that I'm wanting to do. It's kind of the sweet spot for me to be reading this right now because I have fallen back in love with short stories and novellas and novelettes. And that's basically what this is. It's a bunch of 14 to 18,000 word stories with little 4,000 word stories sandwiching them together. And that's my jam. I really love that. Each individual episode took about an hour and a half. I think the longest one was 2 hours to read, and that was amazing. It was perfectly spaced out so that it was like having an episode of television, and I could get a beginning, middle, and an end, which was everything that I wanted in a story. And I got a bunch of different adventures. So I'm really looking forward to book 2, and I'm curious to see how my experience of The Witcher is going to change when we get to book 3, because that's when it becomes a proper novel series, or at least so I'm told. So what are the pros of The Witcher book? Well, number 1, it's easy to read. I just kind of talked about that a little bit, but I don't think I can say enough about that. This world is so deep and so vast, and you get a sense of that as you go on, especially later in the story when you start finding out about magic and how magic works in the setting. And this is a very large and detailed world. But because the stories themselves are small, it allowed me to get immersed quicker, get through the events of that story, and then on to the next adventure. It was a wonderful introduction into this marvelous world that I want to spend so much time with. The second big pro that I have to give this book are the characters. Each one was so wonderful and so lovely and so amazing, and some of the stories went the way that I thought that they were going to go. Others did not, but the events really felt like they came out of the characters and weren't just foisted upon them. Even the couple stories that are from this, even the couple stories that Destiny really intervenes in, I still felt like they were character driven even when Destiny was involved. So that was kind of a neat trick to pull. Sword and sorcery really is my soft spot when it comes to fantasy. Don't get me wrong, I love a good epic fantasy. I'm not opposed to epic fantasy. I think this is going to turn into an epic fantasy series once we get into the novels. But I love a good sword and sorcery story, and that's what Geralt gives us. It's Geralt and Roach, and they're running around, and he's got his two swords, and there are monsters, and he's going to go slay the monsters, except for when he doesn't slay the monsters, because not all monsters need to be slain. That's an interesting twist on things. The anti-colonialism messages that are present in this story, the feminist messages that are present in the story, it was very much a medieval setting, but it didn't feel antiquated, and it didn't feel outdated, and that is a powerful thing. When I tried to read Game of Thrones, the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire, I really felt like I had to shut down the part of my brain that knows how humans should relate to each other. Because Gur was so focused on this rank medievalism that I didn't like the characters, and it made me hate the setting as I went on. It felt artificial, it felt forced, and it felt like we're going to ignore all basic human decency and see what happens. And I'm not down for that. These were characters that respected each other. These were characters who were able to settle their problems with things other than a sword fight when they could, or with a sword fight very conclusively when necessary. And I respect that. There is so much richness to Geralt's character that I just want to spend more and more time with him and get to see how this world really evolves and grows. And it also made me really excited that we're going to get 2 Witcher spin-off series on Netflix. I'm just saying, because we're getting the story about Geralt's mentor, the person who made him into a Witcher, and we're going to get a prequel series about how Witchers came into being, both of which I'm down for, I'm excited for. I want more of this world, more of this world, more of this world. If you've not read The Last Wish, and you like fantasy fiction, I highly recommend this. I think it's better than, this is so cliche to say, but it is so much better than the TV series. And I really enjoyed the TV series. I love these characters. I can't wait to spend more time with them, and that is the hallmark for me of a good book. That's kind of my first review of a book that I've done on this channel, and I don't know if I hit all the points that I should. I'm not really a booktuber, though I want to talk more about the books that I'm reading. Granted, for a bit, that's probably going to be a lot of Witcher books, because there are 8 books in the series, and I've only read one of them, and I'm planning to read the other 8. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe hit that notification bell. I stream twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays on this channel, and I would love to see you there. We do writing, we do chats, we do all kinds of fun stuff. If you'd like to help me keep making these videos, as well as my fiction and everything else, you'll find links to both my Ko-fi and my Patreon down in the description box below. And since the world is a giant garbage fire that just doesn't seem to want to be fixed, say it with me now. Black Lives Matter, Black Trans Lives Matter, trans identities are magic. And until next time, may you have the courage to ride your dreams into reality. And don't forget to have the fun. Bye.